Have you ever felt used by someone you loved? You gave again. You forgave. You stayed quiet when you should have spoken. You helped when your heart was already heavy. And in the end, you were left empty, alone, wondering if kindness was a mistake. My beloved brothers and sisters, kindness is a gift from Allah Almighty. It is not weakness. It is strength. It is not foolishness. It is a reflection of faith. But like every blessing, it must be used with wisdom. Too often we confuse kindness with always saying yes, with never setting limits, with allowing everyone into our space, our time, our heart, without question. And slowly that kindness is drained not by the act itself, but by the people who never valued it. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, do not let your hatred of a people prevent you from being just. Be just. That is closer to righteousness, justice. Even in love, even in kindness, we are called to be fair. That means not overextending ourselves to please people who take advantage of our silence. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, the believer is not stung from the same hole twice. Kindness is noble, but it was never meant to make you a victim. It was meant to bring light, not burn you out. When your kindness turns into pain, when your heart feels drained from always being the one who gives, then pause, step back, reflect. Because Allah Almighty in His infinite wisdom never asked you to destroy yourself in the name of love. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the most kind, the most generous, the most forgiving. But he was not naive. He was not unaware. He knew who was genuine and who was not. He forgave, yes, but he also distanced himself from those whose hearts were dark. He gave, but not to those who would misuse what he offered. He loved, but never at the cost of his peace or purpose. And you, dear soul, must do the same. Kindness without boundaries leads to bitterness. It leads to fatigue. It leads to a heart so heavy that even prayer feels like a burden. That is not the kindness our faith teaches. Real kindness is pure. It is thoughtful. It knows when to act and when to step away. It is guided by Allah Almighty, not guilt. We live in a world that praises those who give endlessly, who never say no, who always show up. But let me tell you, the same world will not stand by you when your heart collapses from the weight of being everything to everyone. Only Allah Almighty will. Only His guidance will remind you that you do not have to carry more than what you are meant to. You were never created to please people. You were created to please the one who created people. And sometimes the most pleasing thing to Him is when you say no to a harmful request, when you walk away from a toxic situation, when you protect your peace so that you can protect your prayer. True kindness is never blind. It sees clearly. It knows the difference between helping and harming. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step away. Let your heart soften for the right reason. Let your compassion be directed by truth, not emotion, not guilt, not fear, but truth. Because when kindness is aligned with the truth of Allah Almighty, it heals instead of harms. It lifts instead of breaks. So, the next time you feel the pull to give beyond what you can handle, pause and ask, is this for Allah Almighty, or am I trying to hold on to something He is asking me to let go of? That moment of honesty can save your faith. That boundary can protect your soul. And that one quiet no can be the loudest act of love you will ever give. True kindness starts with wisdom, and wisdom starts with Allah Almighty. How many times have you smiled when your heart was breaking? How many times did you show up for someone who would never show up for you? You gave your time, your energy, your support, not because they deserved it, but because you thought it was the right thing to do. And now all you feel is emptiness. You feel used, taken for granted, and somehow you wonder if being good is even worth it anymore. My brothers and sisters, do not lose heart. Do not stop being kind. But understand this: Kindness is not the absence of wisdom. Allah Almighty does not ask you to pour yourself out until nothing is left of you. He asks you to give for His sake in the way He has taught, with balance, with limits, and with sincere intention, as Allah Almighty says in the Quran, and do not make your hand as chained to your neck, nor extend it completely, and thereby become blamed and insolvent. This is a warning against extremes, against giving so much that you are left with nothing, and also against closing your hand completely in selfishness. The balance is where righteousness lies. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, the most beloved deeds to all are those that are consistent, even if they are small. That means you do not have to give in ways that exhaust you. You do not have to keep saying yes just to keep the peace. Sometimes the most consistent act of goodness is setting a boundary. Sometimes the most sincere act of love is stepping back from someone who only takes and never gives. There is a silent pain in being the one who always sacrifices, a hidden wound in being the one who always understands. And when you give and give and give again, and you are met with silence, with entitlement, with indifference, that pain grows, and one day you find that you no longer recognize yourself in the mirror. You've become someone tired, someone bitter, someone who no longer smiles the way they used to. That is not what kindness should do to you. Allah Almighty never commands us to allow others to walk over our hearts. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never allowed himself to be drained by people's demands. Yes, he was generous. Yes, he forgave, but he also knew when to be silent. He knew when to walk away. He chose solitude when the noise of others became too much, and we must learn from that. Some people do not appreciate goodness. They expect it. They demand it, and the moment you stop, they accuse you of changing. They say, you are cold, but the truth is you are not cold. You are healing. You are learning to protect what little strength you have left. You are not created to be everyone's solution. You were not created to carry burdens that others are unwilling to lift. Some people do not want help. They want control. They will take everything you give and still say, you've done nothing. When that happens, remind yourself you are not here to earn the approval of people who only love you when you are convenient. You are here to earn the pleasure of Allah Almighty. And if He knows your intention, if He knows your efforts, then it is enough. Do not let the ingratitude of others harden your heart, but do not let it blind you either. Learn to give with awareness, with prayer. Ask Allah Almighty to show you who is sincere and who is simply using your softness. Ask Him to teach you when to help and when to walk away. Because if you are not careful, you will carry burdens that were never yours. You will lose sleep over people who rest peacefully after hurting you. You will cry for those who never care to wipe your tears. And that is not kindness. That is harm dressed in the clothing of love. You must protect your soul. You must guard your peace, not because you are selfish, but because your faith matters. Your prayer matters. Your relationship with Allah Almighty matters. And if being kind to someone means losing all of that, then it is no longer kindness. It is self-destruction. So be kind, be soft, but be wise. Let your kindness be a light, not a flame, that consumes you. Give from a place of strength, not guilt. And when someone shows you they do not value your presence, believe them. Step back, pray. Let Allah Almighty take over where your efforts end. Because true kindness is not in giving endlessly. It is in giving meaningfully, and when it is done for the sake of Allah Almighty, it never leaves you empty. It fills your heart even if others never say thank you. Why do we think that saying no makes us a bad person? Why do we feel guilty for protecting our peace, for choosing silence over chaos, for choosing prayer over pressure? Many of us have been raised to believe that kindness means always being available, always being helpful, always saying yes even when we are breaking inside. And slowly that belief turns into a prison. You say yes when your soul says no. You smile when your heart is aching. You give when you are already empty. But look at the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the most gentle, the most forgiving, the most merciful of all creation. And even he said no. Even he set boundaries. Even he walked away when hearts were not sincere. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, and turn away from the ignorant. He did not say, fight them. He did not say tolerate every word. He said turn away. That is mercy. That is wisdom. That is protection. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was approached by people every day. Some wanted truth. Some wanted healing. But others came only to test, to drain him, to discredit him. And he knew he could see the difference. He did not entrust himself to everyone. He gave when it was right to give, and he withheld when giving would cause harm. He never allowed emotional manipulation to control his mission. He never allowed public pressure to drown his people. When the Quraysh offered him wealth, power, status, all in exchange for silence, he said no. He did not bend the truth to please the people. He did not change the message to avoid offense. And yet we who follow him feel guilty for choosing peace over pleasing others. We feel selfish for protecting our time, our energy, our mental health. But the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, knew the value of his purpose. And so must you. There was a time when he was praying, and someone interrupted him with a question, and even though he loved to help, he continued his prayer. He prioritized what mattered most, not because he didn't care, but because prayer is sacred. Peace is sacred. Your relationship with Allah Almighty must come before your need to please people. We live in a world that applauds those who never rest, who never say no, who never take time for themselves. But your worth is not in how much you can give to others. It is in how much you remain true to Allah Almighty and to your purpose. Saying no is not a sin. It is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is knowing that even kindness must be directed, not demanded. It is knowing that your time and energy are gifts from Allah Almighty, and you must be a careful steward of them. And when someone demands from you what you cannot give, and you politely decline, that is not failure. That is strength. When you recognize that a person is taking more than they give and you step back, that is not weakness. That is mercy for yourself and even for them. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once said, part of a person's excellence in Islam is leaving that which does not concern him. He taught us to protect our peace, to mind our own spiritual business, to avoid unnecessary drama and conflict. Yet today we feel guilty for walking away from what drains us. We must remember, even he with the purest heart was not available to everyone all the time. He withdrew to the cave. He spent nights in worship. He avoided arguments with those who did not seek truth. He did not run after people who rejected his message. He offered them the truth, then left the rest to Allah Almighty. So, do not let guilt push you into spiritual exhaustion. Do not let pressure from others distract you from what truly matters. If the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was sent as a mercy to the worlds, knew when to walk away, then so can you. Your heart is not weak for needing rest. Your soul is not cold for seeking silence. Your faith is not flawed for choosing to say no. It may be the most powerful act of worship in that moment because you are choosing Allah Almighty over everything else. Kindness is not how much you give away. It is how much you guard what Allah Almighty has entrusted to you. Your time, your energy, your purpose. And sometimes guarding it means saying no. You ever feel like no matter how much you give, it is never enough? You try so hard to make everyone happy. You keep quiet to avoid conflict. You agree to things your heart is not at peace with. You sacrifice your time, your energy, your peace, and still there are complaints. Still you feel unappreciated. Still you are left with this heavy silence in your chest that says, why am I doing all of this? My beloved brothers and sisters, there's a name for that feeling. It is the burden of people-pleasing. At first it may look like kindness. It may feel like goodness, but over time it becomes a prison. You stop living for Allah Almighty, and you start living for the approval of others. You are afraid to disappoint, afraid to be misunderstood, afraid to say no even when your heart is breaking. But Allah Almighty did not create you to be a slave to people's opinions. He created you to serve Him. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, is it other than Allah that you fear? Fear of people is not the same as fear of Allah Almighty. Fear of people makes you weak. It controls you. It shapes your words, your decisions, your entire life until you no longer recognize who you are. But fear of Allah Almighty brings strength. It brings clarity. It brings peace. Because when you live to please Him, you are no longer pulled in 1,000 directions, trying to please those who will never be satisfied. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, whoever seeks the pleasure of Allah, even if it displeases the people, Allah will be pleased with him, and He will make the people pleased with him. That is the key. You do not need to chase anyone's approval. You do not need to be everything to everyone. Your goal is not to be liked. Your goal is to be sincere with your Creator. The danger of people-pleasing is that it replaces worship. Suddenly you are not praying on time because you are too busy helping others. You are not speaking the truth because you are afraid it will hurt someone. You are not resting, not reflecting, not remembering Allah Almighty because you are constantly running from one demand to another, right? They're pausing, waiting and rejoicing. That is what will happen. You are not resting, not reflecting, not remembering Allah. You are not. It may look like love. It may look like generosity, but deep inside it is fear. It is a fear of rejection, of judgment, of not being enough. And that fear is what Shaitan uses to distract you from your real purpose. You cannot be everything for everyone. Even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, could not make everyone accept the truth. People rejected him, accused him, walked away from him, and yet he never chased their approval. He stood firm. He stayed true to the message. There will be people who misunderstand you, people who say you've changed, people who say you've become cold when you finally learn to set boundaries. But let them talk. Their words will pass. Their opinions will fade. And in the end, it is only Allah Almighty who will ask what you did. Ask yourself honestly, are you doing this for the people, or are you doing this for your Lord? Because when you live for people, you become exhausted. You are constantly giving without being filled, constantly serving without being seen, constantly saying yes until your heart starts to scream no. And that is not a sign of piety. It is a sign that something is out of balance. Even your kindness must be for the sake of Allah Almighty, not to keep peace, not to win approval, not to avoid conflict, but to earn reward and protect your heart from bitterness. So let go of the pressure. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the need to be perfect in the eyes of others. You were not created to please them. You were created to worship the one who knows your pain even when no one else sees it. If you're always pleasing people but neglecting yourself, neglecting your soul, neglecting your prayers, then something needs to change. And that change begins with one word. No. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of love for Allah Almighty, out of care for your own soul, out of respect for your purpose. Live for Him, and you will never be left empty. Have you ever said yes while your heart whispered no? Have you ever agreed to help someone even when every part of you was already tired? You said yes to avoid guilt. You said yes to keep peace. You said yes because you didn't want to seem selfish. But later you were left drained, confused, and quietly broken. My dear brothers and sisters, sometimes saying no is the most loving thing you can do, not just for yourself, but for others. We are taught to be generous. We are encouraged to forgive. We are inspired to serve. But we are also commanded to act with wisdom. Allah Almighty does not ask you to destroy yourself to prove your kindness. He does not expect you to always be available. He expects sincerity, and sincerity means doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, and do not follow what you have no knowledge of. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, all of these will be questioned. That means your actions matter, your intentions matter, but so does your awareness. So does your ability to recognize when something is not right. And so that if you am irrational, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said none of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. We often hear this hadith and think it means self-sacrifice, and yes, at times it does, but it also means this: if you would not want someone to burn themselves out for you, do not burn yourself out for others. If you would not want someone to be emotionally manipulated by your needs, do not allow yourself to be emotionally manipulated by theirs. That is love. That is fairness. That is faith. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to protect your energy and your peace if saying yes will cost you your focus, your strength, or your connection to Allah Almighty. Not every need is yours to meet. Not every request is yours to answer. Not every open hand is yours to fill. Sometimes the person standing in front of you needs to face consequences. Sometimes helping them, again, will only delay their growth. Sometimes enabling them, and when that moment comes, your no is not cruelty, it is mercy. It is you saying, I care about you, but I care enough not to keep helping you stay where you are. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, walked away from people who rejected truth. He did not force them to change. He gave them the message, then trusted Allah Almighty with the outcome. You can do the same. Saying no does not make you unkind. It makes you clear. It helps you reserve your strength for the places Allah Almighty wants you to use it. Your family, your prayer, your own healing, your personal responsibility. Because if you keep giving to those who only take, there will be nothing left for those who truly need your love, including yourself. You must learn to let go of the idea that love always means staying, that kindness always means saying yes, that compassion always means being available. Sometimes love means letting someone feel the weight of their own choices. Sometimes kindness means allowing distance. Sometimes compassion means silent. You are not un-Islamic for needing space. You are not a bad believer for saying I can't right now. You are not cruel for choosing to rest, to reflect, to prioritize your responsibilities over someone's expectations. The world will tell you that love means constant availability, but Allah Almighty tells us to be just, and justice starts with yourself. If your soul is breaking, if your mind is crumbling, if your body is weak, how can you serve others? Your energy is not unlimited. Your time is not endless. Your heart is not indestructible. Protect it. Take care of it. Honor the trust Allah Almighty has placed in you. True kindness is not about being everything to everyone. It is about being exactly who Allah Almighty created you to be: balanced, wise, whole. So say no when you need to. Say no when your prayer is suffering. Say no when you feel used. Say no when the peace in your heart is being replaced with pressure. And say it with gentleness. Say it with sincerity. Say it while turning to Allah Almighty and asking Him to guide your every word. Because when you say no for His sake, He opens doors you never expected, and He fills your heart with peace no one else can give. Have you ever trusted someone only to realize they were not who they claimed to be? They smiled in your face, but behind your back they spoke again. They accepted your kindness, but their hearts were never sincere. They asked for help, but never intended to change. You gave them your time, your support, your heart, and in return you were left confused, hurt, and wondering how you didn't see the sign. My brothers and sisters, not everyone who appears kind has good intention. Not every soft voice comes from a soft heart. The world is full of people who wear the mask of goodness only to take advantage of those who are sincere. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, O you who have believed, be cautious of many assumptions. Indeed, some assumptions are sin. Caution is not suspicion. It is not harshness. It is not cold-heartedness. It is wisdom. A believer is kind, yes, but also aware. Loving, yes, but also guarded. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, the believer is not bitten from the same hole twice. That is not a warning from him. It is a lesson, a reminder. You are not supposed to keep walking into the same trap. If someone has shown you their true colors, believe them. Do not keep telling yourself that your kindness will change them. Only Allah Almighty can change hearts. Too many sincere souls are caught in relationships and friendships that drain them, not because they are weak, but because they keep giving the benefit of the doubt to those who have no intention of doing good. Sometimes the enemy does not come with a sword. He comes with a smile. He comes with charming words. He comes with a false appearance of help, love, or even religiousness. And if we are not careful, we give them our trust, our energy, our secrets, and we are left exposed. You must ask Allah Almighty for discernment. You must pray for clarity, because in this world, not everyone who says I care means it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, dealt with people like this, hypocrites who praised him in public but plotted against him in private. They walked beside him, joined his gatherings, spoke the words of belief, but their hearts were far from the truth, and he knew he was not blind to their deceit. He did not allow their fake words to enter his heart. He kept his mission pure. He kept his trust in Allah Almighty, not in people. You must do the same. There is a time for giving, and there's a time for stepping back. There is a time to open your heart, and there's a time to close the door gently, not out of hatred but out of wisdom. Being kind does not mean being naive. You are not sinful for seeing the truth. You are not heartless for protecting yourself from people who pretend to care only when they need something. Some people are sent as a test. Some are sent as a distraction. And some come into your life just to pull you away from your purpose. But if your heart is connected to Allah Almighty, you will see, you will know, and you will be able to say this is not from Him. It is painful to realize that someone was using you. It is painful to accept that someone you helped would speak against you. But do not let that pain make you bitter. Let it make you wise. Let it turn you back to the one who never deceives, never uses, never abandons. Because Allah Almighty sees what you gave. He knows what it cost you, and He will never let it go to waste. So be kind, but be cautious. Be loving, but be prayerful. Open your hand to those who are sincere. But when you sense that something is wrong, trust your heart and ask Allah Almighty to guide your next step. You were not created to fix everyone. You were not sent to save those who don't want help. You were not made to carry people who keep choosing to stay in darkness. Trust is a beautiful thing, but trust without prayer can lead to pain. Let your kindness be guided. Let your trust be directed. And let your heart be protected. Because in a world where so many wear masks, only the light of Allah Almighty can show you who is real. Whose approval are you really living for? That's the question we must all ask ourselves. Every time we say yes when our heart says no. Every time we exhaust ourselves to avoid disappointing others. Every time we hide the truth just to keep the peace. Who are we trying to please? And at what cost? My beloved brothers and sisters, the greatest danger in life is not failure. It is living for the wrong audience. It is measuring our worth by how others see us, instead of how Allah Almighty sees us. You can spend your whole life chasing people's approval, but what happens when they walk away? What happens when they forget your kindness? What happens when they turn on you the moment you stop giving? The truth is people change. Their opinions shift. Their loyalty fades. But the pleasure of Allah Almighty is eternal. When you live for Him, you are never forgotten. You are never overlooked. You are never left unrewarded. As Allah Almighty says in the Quran, say, shall I seek a Lord other than Allah while He is the Lord of all things? We must return to this truth that Allah Almighty is the only one worth pleasing, the only one who sees our intentions, the only one who understands our silence, our struggles, our quiet sacrifices. The Prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, whoever seeks the pleasure of Allah at the risk of displeasing people, Allah will suffice him against the people. This is not just a hadith. It is a promise, a healing, a protection. Because the moment you stop living to be liked and start living to be sincere, with Allah Almighty you are set free. Free from guilt, free from pressure, free from expectations that were never yours to carry. You are allowed to say, I cannot do this right now. You are allowed to step back from relationships that pull you away from your faith. You are allowed to protect your peace if that peace brings you closer to Allah Almighty. Do not let the world convince you that this is selfishness. It is not. It is self-respect. It is spiritual maturity. It is choosing the Creator over the creation. Some people will not understand your choices. They will question your boundaries. They will say, you have changed and that's okay. You are changing. You are growing. You are learning that not every kind act is good, and not every good act is kind. Sometimes kindness means telling the truth even if it hurts. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes strength means walking away quietly and trusting Allah Almighty to deal with what you could not fix. Your reward is not with people. Your peace is not in their hands. The one who created your heart is the only one who can heal it. So pour your sincerity into your prayer, not into pleasing those who drain you. Speak kindly, but set clear boundaries. Help where you can, but not at the cost of your health or your obedience to Allah Almighty. You do not owe people constant access to your energy. You do not owe them your silence when your soul is struggling. You do not owe them your peace. You owe your Lord your trust, your worship, your heart. And when that is your focus, you become untouchable. Not because life gets easier, but because your purpose becomes clearer. Your strength becomes real. Your kindness becomes intentional. You stop living from guilt and start living from guidance. You stop fearing rejection and start fearing only to displease the one who never leaves. Return to Allah Almighty. Let Him define your worth. Let Him shape your kindness. Let Him be your reason to smile again. Because in a world full of demands and noise and pressure, His approval is the only thing that will never change. And when you live for Him, you will no longer feel the need to explain yourself to those who do not understand your journey. You will no longer carry the weight of expectations that were never yours to begin with. You will be free, soft-hearted, but firm, compassionate, but wise, gentle but guarded, and most of all loved by Allah Almighty. And that is enough. May your kindness always bring you closer to Him. May your heart be protected from those who only take, and may your soul find peace in knowing that you were never created to please the world, but to return to the one who created